What's up, guys? I'm Morgan Milliken, and I know most of you guys are used to me posting weightlifting videos on Instagram, but I wanted to take an opportunity and do something just a little bit different today. I'd like to share something that's really important and really special to me. So if you guys got a couple of minutes, I'd like to share my testimony with you. So a little backstory. I grew up in church, in a Baptist church to be exact, and me and my family have gone to the same church for generations. I grew up going to Sunday school and GAs and we were literally at church every time the doors were open. Twice on Sunday, Wednesday night Bible study, a couple times during the week to help out with other activities, just always at church. So it goes without saying that I knew all the Bible stories. I knew all of the Bible characters. I knew all the hymns in the hymnal. I knew church. I had church down. And so growing up like that, you understand that getting saved is really important. There's a huge emphasis on when you get saved, like everybody has to. It's such a big deal. So naturally, I knew this as a kid. And when I was 8 years old, I was like, hey, you know what? It's time for me to get saved. Cool, let's do this. So I prayed this sweet little prayer at home before I went to bed. And the next Sunday at church, I walked down the aisle and I'm like, hey, I'm saved. I need to be baptized. So, of course, the whole church, they're so excited for me. They've all known me since 9 months before I was born, and they're all just super stoked. So we line up my baptism. I get baptized, and life pretty much continues on as usual for me. So fast forward a couple years, and I'm 13. I had recently joined the youth group, and we were going to my very first Disciple Now, which if you don't know what that is, it's just like it's like a youth conference between all local churches, and you all just get together 3 nights out of a weekend and do Bible studies, worship services, little things like that. It's like a rally. And so I'm sitting there on Friday night and with all my new youth friends, and it's such a cool experience. And the pastor gets up there and he brings the message. And of course, he closes it with an invitation. He's like, hey, I just want you guys to make sure that you know you're saved. Like, a lot of people think they're saved, but you may not be. Make sure tonight that you know for sure. And so 13-year-old me, with all the doubt in the world, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, well, what if I'm not saved? Like, what if I don't know what it means to be saved? What if what happened when I was 8 wasn't true salvation? Like, what if I don't even know now what it means? Like, oh my gosh. So I start panicking, and I go ahead, trip number 2, down the aisle to the altar, and I kneel down and I pray, and I'm like seriously focusing on all the words. I'm like, if I can just get the words right, it'll work this time. So I'm kneeling down and I'm like, God, I want to be saved. Please take my sins away. Boom. Like magic. It happens. It's got to work this time. I know for sure. So I go back to my church and I tell them, I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm saved, but for real this time. And I want to get baptized. So, of course, they're all super excited for me again. They're like, great, little Morgan, she's finally got right with the Lord. This is great. So probably immediately after my baptism, my second baptism, I started having pretty severe doubts about salvation because I still had not reached this spiritual level of salvation. It was still very much just head knowledge. I had great theology as a 13-year-old. Like I said, I knew all of the things about the Bible. I knew all the things about church, but I still was struggling with the fact that maybe I hadn't met Jesus yet. So I try to push it to the back of my mind, and I go through high school really focusing on trying to share the gospel with my friends, invite them to church, be super active in the youth group. Like I've literally got my Christianity checklist down to a T. I'm teaching Sunday school, I'm leading discussions in the youth group, I'm chaperoning trips, I'm planning mission trips, like I've got it down. Singing in the choir, whole 9 yards. Well, I get to this point of such severe doubt in my faith where I'm laying in bed multiple nights out of the week and crying myself to sleep because I'm just so stressed about, did I do it right? Did I say the right words? Am I doing the right things? Like, something's just not right. I'm still doubting. And I remember multiple nights just laying there and praying to God, being like, God, if I'm not saved, please save me right now. Just fix it. Please fix me. It doesn't feel right, and I don't understand why it doesn't feel right. Like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Just fix it. Please just save me now. Let it be done. And so in my mind, I'm still treating salvation like it's just another piece on that checklist. I'm just like, okay, well, I got to get this right. I got to get this done. And I'm completely missing the relationship aspect of it. So this continues on well into my college years. I went to a private Christian school, a Baptist college, and this was kind of like part of my effort at getting right. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to this school. Everybody's going to love Jesus. We're going to have Bible studies every night. We'll hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and I'll get right spiritually. I know everything will be perfect. This is going to be great. So I get up to my Christian school, and of course my young, naive, and very innocent mind was met with a super harsh reality that not everybody who says they love Jesus actually loves Jesus. So I struggled a little bit finding friends and fitting in a world where I felt like I would never fit in. And I finally found a group of friends who I could talk to. So I kind of talked to them about my doubts. I talked to them about where I was at, and they're like, oh, without a doubt, Morgan, you're saved. Like, because you're so worried about it, it makes sense that you're saved. Like, if you didn't care, that would be an issue, blah, blah, blah. All this, terrible logic. And so I'm like, yeah, they're right. They know more than me. They're super confident in their faith. Their dads are pastors. Their moms are missionaries. Like, they know. So I don't have to worry about it. Well, I get to my sophomore year, and I am sitting in my history of missions class with Dr. Van. And he opens our class unusual on this day, and he read a devotional to us. And he said, guys, I feel like I need to say something today. He said, if you're doubting your salvation, I just want you to know that you're doubting God's capability to save you. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, that's me. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing something wrong. And I go back to this mentality of like, it's me, it's my fault. And which it was, but he told us, he's like, God is capable. He's like, God can save you. So quit doubting him. Like, you're putting too much of yourself in the equation. If you're asking God to save you, he's going to meet you where you are. And I'm literally just like hanging on every word. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I need to hear. This is what I've been waiting for. So I go back to my room, and I invite my friends up. We talk about it for a little bit, and I'm like, y'all, I heard this today. I just don't know. Like, I'm still having these doubts. And they're like, Morgan, if you're still having these doubts, you know what to do. Go get right with the Lord. Go fix it right now. They're like, stop wondering. And I just look at them, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I need to do that. But then I keep like mulling it over in my mind. So I put it off for a couple days, and I wake up on a Friday morning, November 1st to be exact, and I was so miserable that I just could not even stand myself anymore. So when I got back from class, I locked my door to my room, and I did not even make it to my bed before I fell on my knees and on my face, and I just prayed. I was like, God, I'm so tired of doing this. I'm so tired of doubting you and doubting my faith. And I cried out to the Lord in an ugly, desperate way, and I begged him to save my soul. And what made this part different was I actually let him. I gave up control. I gave up me. And I gave up this checklist that I'd been performing, and I gave up my idea of what salvation was, and I let God do his thing. And that was the absolute most peaceful, joyful, exciting, best day of my life, because I knew after crying on my face for over an hour in the floor, I knew that finally I had gotten it. I had understood that salvation isn't my capability. It's not my words that I'm saying in my prayers. It's not the acts that I'm doing. That it's God, and he's capable, and he's able, and he's willing, which is the most exciting part. And I remember picking myself up off the floor with snot running down my nose and a puddle of tears on the floor and just a total wreck. And I stood up and I felt so light. For the first time, I felt so at peace. And I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to tell people. I was like, oh my gosh, it really does work. Like, you don't have to keep doubting. I went to my Bible study the night after, and I was like, y'all, I got to tell you, like, I got saved, and here's how. I told them the entire story. And the coolest part about that was after the Bible study, I had one of my friends come up to me, and she said, Morgan, I've been living your life. She said, I've been living everything you've been going through. Please help me. And we sat down right there and prayed. And she went back to her family and she told them, and I went back home and I told my friends and family. And it was like a true picture of what the gospel looks like moving through people. And it was the coolest thing to be used by God and to be loved and held and know that both of us became children of God. It was the coolest. And that's why I want to share this with you guys today, because I don't want anybody else to live the way that I was living, in perpetual doubt and perpetual desperation and just not knowing where I was at. It was miserable and excruciating. And so if there's anything that you guys take away from this, I just hope that you know whether you are or aren't saved. I hope you know and have the confidence that you have Jesus in you, because it's not worth living a day without him. Whether you have gone to church your whole life, or you've never been a day, or you know every Bible story back to front, upside down, or you've never heard of the Bible, I just want you to know that Jesus will meet you where you're at. You don't have to live a checklist. You don't have to walk this tightrope of Christianity. God meets you where you are, and he'll meet you right there today. So if you don't have somebody to talk to, I would love to talk to you and share more about Jesus. He's my favorite thing to talk about. Or if you do have someone, I encourage you to call them or text them or whatever. But don't waste another day. Don't waste any more time not knowing. It's too important. And for those of you who do have Jesus, I challenge you to share him. It doesn't have to be on Instagram or Facebook or any of these social media. Just share him with somebody, because it could be the difference in life and death. So thank you guys for giving me the time to share my passion and my love, and I would love to see your testimonies out there too. So I hope to talk to you guys soon, and thanks.